have 7 members present. We need 3 for a quorum. Mr. Alatorre, Mr. Ridley Thomas, and Mr. Holden. If you're in the building, please show up. Thank you.
Good morning. We're still missing a quorum, but I think it would be appropriate to, first of all, meet our visitors, and we do have one presentation this morning. I think you're it, Laura. And are we ready? Tom, are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined this morning by some very distinguished visitors, and I'm going to ask Mr. LaBonge from Mayor Reardon's office to introduce them.
President, members of the council, good morning. We have a very special delegation from all provinces in China who are here with us this morning. Yang Shi is their principal delegation leader. He is the Assistant Director of Finance for the People's Republic of China. And they all were here learning about road work and road financing and the best way to get their bang for the dollar, the cost of building roads. So would you please welcome them to the City Council of Los Angeles, please stand and be
Please stand
recognized.
up and let us thank you for coming. Very happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lavange. Mrs. Chick for a presentation.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a confession. We used a ruse to get our honoree here today, and so now I'd like Lieutenant Anthony P. Alba to come and join me at the podium. His very supporting and loving staff wanted this to be a surprise, and we played a nasty trick and told him that the council had some serious questions to ask of him, and he needed to come over today. So now you can really relax.
Well, I'm sure we can think of something.
Exactly. But Lieutenant Alba is someone to point very proudly to when we think of the hardworking men and women of our Los Angeles Police Department. He's been with the department for 31 years, a pretty awesome length of time. And during that time, he's been honored for everything, by everyone, and deservedly so. His media savvy and his articulate comments have helped the LAPD to relay accurate and timely and insightful information to the public. And any of you who, along with me, have seen him in the last few years on television, you have noticed his calm demeanor, even when peppered with questions from a media that is not only friendly to our department. He has worked tirelessly to better connect the LAPD with the people it serves. He's given of himself by volunteering countless hours to community and law enforcement organizations. He has served as president and vice president of the Southern California Emergency Public Information Officers Association. And while with the department full-time, colleagues, he committed himself to self-improvement and earned a bachelor's degree from Cal State Los Angeles. He's been a treasure and truly dependable stand-up member of the city family and the Los Angeles Police Department. And along with all of this, I know that his wife, Carol, their 4 sons, not to mention the grandchildren, are very, very proud of you today. And so are we. You are a leader and an achiever, and I know I and lots others and your colleagues in the department are going to miss you a great deal. Thank you for all you've done for the city, and congratulations.
Thank you, Laura.
And since he's such a media expert, he has agreed to say a few words to us.
This is indeed a surprise, and I thank everybody who had anything to do with this. But I'd particularly like to thank the people of Los Angeles for allowing me to serve this great city for 31 years. I think that, and hopefully we brought the community and the police department closer. I think it's very important that the police and the community understand each other, and that people in the community understand that this police department is here to help them. Though we may have difficulties from time to time, this police agency will always be here to help its community. And rather than create fear about contact with the police, we'd like to encourage people to become involved with our family, because I truly feel to know us is to love us. And join our community councils. Come meet your local police at your police station. Be a part of the solution and not part of the problem. And we can make a difference, and we can make this a wonderful city, and probably the proudest city in the entire United States, if not the world. Thank you.
Here, here. See, he goes out hyping the department and the city. Very appropriate. Thank you.
Another example of class. Thank you, Mrs. Chick, and thank you, Lieutenant Alba. We are still lacking a quorum. We have present Mr. Alatorre, Mrs. Chick, Mr. Fewer, myself, Mr. Hernandez, Ms. Misikowski, Mr. Wax, and Mrs. Walters. We are expecting Mr. Holden and Mr. Ridley Thomas, but I don't know when. Yeah, you think so, huh? Sergeant, maybe you ought to go check them out. Mr. Holden's here. We haven't caught up on, there he is, okay. We are now, excuse me, we are now awaiting Mr. Ridley Thomas. Mrs. Walters. He is expected. No one has been able to give us an exact time. They will say shortly after. Why don't we wait 5 minutes and if he's not here? The other 4 are. those who are watching and waiting, we have 9 members present. We need one more for a quorum who is expected momentarily. We hope they're right.
Madam President, I would like to make a motion that the council adjourn without a quorum.
I think he just came in. He's here where? Okay, sorry. All right, we have a quorum. Nice try. Good morning, this is the meeting of the Los Angeles City Council. Would you please, clerk, please call the roll.
Alatorre, Bernson, Chick, Fuhrer, Galanter, Goldberg, Hernandez, Holden, Miskowski, Ridley Thomas, Vornich, Wax, Walters, Ferraro. There's 10 members present and a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. We are being viewed on Channel 35. We are also available by council phone, and we're going to start this meeting as fast as we can. Item 1.
Approval of the minutes.
Mrs. Chick moves, Ms. Miskowski seconds, unanimous vote.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Any objections? Unanimous vote.
On the regular agenda, item number 5, a request to continue by Council District 13 till June 15th.
Is there any objection to the continuance? In that case, it'll be continued.
Item number 1 on the regular agenda is an item notice for a public hearing.
Item 1, we have one, this is a proposed improvement and maintenance district, lighting district. We have one speaker, Mr. Hooker.
Good morning, Madam President, council members. My name is Raymond Hooker. I live on Altamore Drive in Los Angeles, the Westchester area. I'm speaking against this proposed lighting district. As a resident of approximately 20 years, this is the first time I felt compelled to come to the council. I called my council office and quite frankly wasn't satisfied with the explanation of the assessment being assessed because of something we've been doing since 1935. Currently, I pay $6,300 in property taxes a year, and the 49 residents of our lighting district pay approximately $300,000 in taxes. I realize those taxes go to the county tax assessor, and I don't know how that money is dispersed or how much the city receives.
About 6 cents on the dollar.
Okay. But I believe that our property taxes more than cover, are enough money to more than cover the expense of this lighting. I believe when items like this come up to council that we need to look at them and maybe change the way assessments are levied. This is an item which I feel strongly about and I oppose. Not that it's a high dollar item for me, but it's just something I felt I needed to come out and say. I'd like to thank you for your time and consideration in the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hooker. That closes the public hearing since we have no other cards. And let me just remind Mr. Hooker and others that these are assessment districts which have to be voted on by the residents within the proposed assessment district. So we'll continue actually we won't close the public hearing. We'll continue the public hearing until July 2nd And since we don't have 12 members, we'll just continue the ordinance as well until July 2nd. So this will come up again on July 2nd. Thank you. Next item.
Item number 2 on the regular agenda is an item notice for public hearing.
We have no cards to be heard on this item, so we'll then close the public hearing and move to a vote. Do we need a motion on this one? Do we have any objections to item number 2? In that case, we'll consider that a unanimous vote. Now, that's also an ordinance, so that will have to carry over for 1 week. All right, open the roll. Can't do it by no objections, huh? All right, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote. Now, because that was the first reading and we did not have 12 people present, that will be continued 1 week. What are we up to? Item 3.
Okay, item number 3 through 8, with the exception of number 5, are items for which public hearings have been held.
There any specials, items 3 through 8? Council members? Are there any council members? Where is everybody? Hearing none, we'll open the roll on items 3 through 8 with the exception of 5. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Thank you. Items 3 and 4 are ordinances, and once again, will carry over 1 week. Next item.
Items number 9 through 18 on the regular agenda are items for which public hearings have not been held.
Is there anybody in the chamber who wants to be heard on any of items 9 through 18? If so, we need you to fill out a card. We don't have any cards, in which case the public hearing is closed. And are there any specials, council members?
Yes, Madam Chair, on item 16, that's to be received and filed, the department had originally asked for that motion, and now they find out they don't have the funds available, and they've decided to receive and file it. So I would ask that 16 be received and filed.
All right. All right, so item 16 is going to be received and filed. Any other specials? Open the roll on 9 through 18 with the exception of, 16, the motion is to receive and file, so it would be 9 through 18. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Thank you very much. Next item.
Now is the time for public comment on non-agenda items.
We don't have any cards on that either. Take it easy, relax. Is there anybody in the chamber who wishes to be heard on non-agenda items? Hearing none, the public comment period is closed. Mr. Clerk, the next item.
I understand there is
I'm sorry. Forthwith on item 12, please.
I understand that there is an item coming in, a special one.
All right. What else do we have? Excuses? Are we here? We ready with special one? Let's do
A special one is before us. City attorney needs to make the finding.
Thank you, Madam President. This has to do with the brush clearance fee. This is a motion that is asking that the fee be rescinded. The council would need to make the findings that the need to act arose after the posting of the agenda and that there's immediate need to act. This motion is stating that the council office was notified this Wednesday that the fire department had not yet mailed out the revised notice, that people are sending in their fees, and that there is a lot of confusion, and I believe Ms. Chick could clarify it further if necessary.
Ms. Chick, what?
Are we going to vote to consider this?
We're going to vote on whether to suspend the rules, but what Ms. Weinberg was suggesting was that
Did I add
you
to the
explain the
discussion?
reason for the urgency.
Right. Colleagues, as you know, we've had quite a number of difficulties with this program, in particular revolving around the fee and the instructions to the public. Your Public Safety Committee worked hard with the Fire Department and the CLA's office and the CAO to come up with a revised letter to go out to all of the property owners that were impacted by this program. to explain the program, to explain their options about doing their own inspection and thereby being able to avoid paying the
Wait,
fee.
Excuse me, the immediate issue before we take the vote on the findings is what the
Right.
urgency is, and then we'll
Okay.
get to the merits.
Well, and I'm getting to that. That letter has been held in limbo now for the last couple of weeks. The department was unable to send it out while the mayor's office was reviewing the letter since a couple of days before Memorial Day weekend. The date in that letter and the program compliance was June 30th. Now we're mid-June. The fire department, in fact, has completed all of the inspections and can't take the fee from some people and not from others. And so to correct the problems for this year, and people are still continuing to pay, so to put an end to all of this for this year and correct the problem, there is a matter of urgency to act today before we have any more payments coming in that in fact are not appropriate for people to be paying.
All right, thank you. So we'll vote on the findings. Oh, this is on whether to suspend the rules and consider special one. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 eyes.
Okay, then the matter is before us. Is there any further discussion? No, I don't, actually. Well, neither of them came up. Oh. All right, so finding the right screen. There's no names there.
We don't have a quorum again?
What happened to our quorum?
Yes, we do.
Okay, we do have a quorum. All right.
Madam President, if I
Yes, you're up now.
Okay. To finish the explanation, colleagues, the fire department has collected almost $1 million from residents who trust the fire department, trust their government to keep them safe from brush fires. That's more than 73,000 property owners who have paid the fee, and it leaves more than 100,000 who have yet to pay the fee. But the notice, as I said, has been stuck in indefinite limbo. The fire department has managed to complete all of the inspections. The public safety piece of this, which is our primary concern, is going forward. Property owners who have yet to comply with clearing the brush are getting communication from the department. But as we sit and talk about neighborhood councils and how we can work more closely with our residents and rebuild their trust in government, this program has been riddled with problems from the beginning. And the latest one that has held up that corrected letter, which really answered all the questions that the public had, explained the fee, explained how they could self-inspect if they preferred not to pay the fee. By that letter not going out, in my view, it really caused the final problem. There is no way that we can accept the money from some and then forgive others. The department was faced with a variety of choices, none of which was going to allow them to deposit those checks and use them for the program this year. And it seems to me that the best way to deal with this, colleagues, is to wipe the slate clean and start all over from scratch. You will see in the motion that it asks for very prompt action from the fire department and the CAO to come back and take a look at what properties should be included, justification for a fee and the amount of the fee. It leaves us a full and open option going forward for next year and in plenty of time to shape this program and appropriate ways to deal with the costs of it and to do it right and to correct the problems that have occurred by refunding the money that's been paid and explaining to our property owners that we will be back correctly next year. I ask for your support on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holden.
Maybe you can't answer this, but maybe the fire department can. Were all the properties inspected? They were inspected? Isn't it a fee for service? I mean, I don't see the confusion. If they were inspected, they pay the fee, and they've already paid the fee. It seemed like to me that the ones that didn't send the money in, just that they are delinquent. Why are they not delinquent? They were notified. How could some people be notified and respond by paying fee for service, and some are not.
Because we suspended the fee, Mr. Holden, I believe you also voted for that. We reinstated the fee, but the public, the property owners, have never received the notice explaining that the fee is still in place, what they have to do to comply, when they have to comply, and the alternative to paying the fee, which is part of the program. So some people have paid, and some people haven't.
Well, the
And-
people who did not pay on my time are the ones who are complaining to you and some other members of the council saying, we don't want to pay for this fee
No,
for service.
this is not about the public complaining to
Or
me
which
at all.
part of that was about complaints?
No. The complaints came in after the first letter went out. This is about, maybe we need the fire department
Yeah,
to...
well, hold
I
my
think
time,
maybe we do,
please.
yes,
Hold my
let's-
time, thank you, please.
I think you're answering Mr. Holden's question.
What I ask is indulgence in repeating the question since I was sitting outside at the time. Councilman Holden, Deputy Fire Chief Jimmy Hill.
Just tell us about the confusion in the program, that'll answer my question.
The answer in response to why we haven't collected from the remaining people, the letter has not gone out. As has been indicated, it has been held up and is subject to review still by the mayor's office and other staff. The fire department has already collected a very large sum of money from the constituents, approximately just under $1 million. All of the inspections have been done. The fire department completed them earlier this month. We have issued approximately in excess now of over 20,000 notices of non-compliant to the property owners out there. So the safety aspect of the brush clearance program has been in place. We have been diligent in making sure that the work is done. We've cleaned up the city property. We've reached an agreement with the state to clean up the additional state properties. So from that aspect of it, we have taken care of what our duties are.
And you've actually done, the department has actually done the revised letter, right?
That's correct.
That's out of the department. You got your part of the job done.
The letter has been
hung up
complete.
somewhere else.
That's correct.
And where else is it hung up?
So, on the non-compliance, the 20,000 that you cited or about to cite, is that a fee for service? Did you charge them a fee?
Now, the properties that we have issued notices to, we have not charged them any fee for service. If they do not comply with that notice, they will be subject to the $204 for noncompliance as well. If that property is put out to contract, there will be an additional fee, $314 for administrative costs, plus the cost of contract.
So, if this letter had been sent out and everything was done properly or correctly, you would have received $13 from each of them, plus the $13 from people who submitted their money as good citizens would do, and we would have reimbursed the department for the amounts of time, money related that they spent in order to perform the inspection. Is that correct?
That was the intent of the
So
program.
now you don't get nothing, because some people start squealing about the project, and some of the members of the council acquiesce, and then the program got more confusing, so you're losing millions of dollars.
I don't think the problem is in the council. The council's not holding that letter. Mrs. Walters is next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're talking about, Ms. Chick has suggested that we recall this, refund the payments, and get off on the right foot after July 1. But is there any consideration, is there any guarantee that the mayor is going to release the letter after July 1? Or is there any suspicion that he's holding it hostage because he disagrees with the policy established by the council?
I don't think there's any disagreement from the mayor. In fact, I think there was quite a bit of encouragement and support from him at the front end to have the department create the fee as a source of reimbursement for the service and a way of dealing with a variety of problems in terms of resources for the fire department.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's enough.
I
It's still
can't
my
explain
time.
his
Yeah,
actions.
All right, go ahead.
I'd like for the CLA or the CAO, and maybe the fire department can tell us what the cost to the department and to the city has been thus far since you have completed the inspections, and what the implications of that, of not receiving further money and refunding that, is going to be to the city budget.
I couldn't tell you the total cost of how much we have spent at this date, but each year, we're budgeted to just under about $550,000 to get the program started. That includes our startup costs for the mailers, for the brush task force, and the personnel that have to go out and do these inspections. There are some additional costs that go this year because we added 6 persons to the staff last year in this program. We also had asked for additional money this year in the budget, about $1.3 million, just to get the city properties brought up to standard and to get them cleared so there was no issues about our own housekeeping.
Okay, I'd like to hear from CLA and CAO.
Just on the revenue side, this year's budget anticipated $1.2 million of revenue. As I understand, there's approximately that much, but if it's refunded, then we have essentially a $1.2 million hole, and next year's budget anticipates $3 million in revenue from this brush clearance
Plus the
fee.
cost of refunding.
Yes. Well, I don't know how the refunding is going to be handled. I understand they haven't.
Well, I mean, the postage, if they just put it in an envelope, mail it, the postage is considerable on the number of checks you must have of $13 denominations to add up to $1 million.
Essentially, it's a $4 to $4.5 million revenue hit.
Hit on the
Anticipation.
98-99 budget.
99,200.
No, it's $1.2 million for this year. Next year, I believe, as the motion says, they're asking for us to report back on how to change this program. So there's potentially the $3 million for next year may be available, but that will be a decision to be made. There is $3 million right now included in next year's budget from this revenue source.
Okay, well, I'm concerned about closing out this year's budget, the 98-99 budget, and whether there's enough money in the reserve funds to cover this. How will this be handled so that we can close out the year without a deficit?
We will close it without a deficit. I mean, this
It will just be a reduction in the reserve fund, but there's sufficient funds to cover it.
Okay. Can it, in the last question, is can this letter be sent out without the mayor's signature?
Yes. It was not, it was, my recollection is it's the fire chief who was sending the letter out. In the first
Well, I
place. It was
suggest
just-
that we send it out anyway. Why should we, if we've still got 2 weeks till July 1. I don't see why we should wait on the mayor. Obviously, he's been busy doing other things.
Wait,
Yes.
we have several other...
So I suggest we just send the letter out.
All right, thank you. Mr. Fuhr is next.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to say a couple things. First, we have enough money in the reserve fund, it's been stated, to cover the shortfall, which I think is, what, $600,000 in this fiscal year, is that correct? The actual shortfall?
Well, the budget closeout for this year anticipated $1.2 million from this source.
So it would literally be a $1.2 million hole, you're saying, for sure?
That's correct.
All right, now, if we have that much money diminished from this year's carryover for the reserve, we start next year's fiscal year with what reserve? Isn't it about 54.8 or something like that? It was supposed to be 56 if it were to be 2% of the overall budget, and I think that with other adjustments that have been made, it's going to be less than 56 with this hit. True?
I don't, my recollection, it was $58 million roughly, just under $58 million, 1.2 would bring us to,
Well, if it were 58 minus 1.2, we're still at 2%.
I believe we would still be at 2%.
All right. What I'd like to do, I guess, is just clarify that during the balance of the debate, because if it's less than 2%, by this action, we'd be violating another council policy. To continue, though, I want to ask a question. I'm not sure if I want to offer an amendment to this or not. I want to talk about the difference between returning money to people and applying the money to next year. What is the cost associated with returning the checks?
I don't believe we have determined that.
There is obviously some cost because people's time is allocable to this as opposed to something else if they're returning checks, of which there are thousands.
Yes.
And if we, I may be inclined to support it as is, I'm asking some questions now. I'm not sure if we know yet what the program will look like next year, and that is the reason not to attribute it to the subsequent year. But if we're going to be spending a lot of money to return the checks, and I think it costs more to return the check than the actual value of the check, I'd like to know that information. It's a complicated thing. Can someone explain that to us? Yeah, because
We can get somebody from
basically,
the
here's
controller.
the question. If we think we're going to need a fee next year, if we're quite certain that that's true, and the fee is to be at least $13, our best thinking at this point, is it better to save the cost associated with returning the checks and merely attribute this to the next year program? There may be good reasons not to do that, which is why I'm not making that as an amendment, moving that as an amendment right now, but I'd like to know. What do the people at the table think?
Mr. Fuhrer, if I might, Gail Weingart, Assistant City Attorney, I think you run into some problems in terms of the ordinance with the opt-out requirements or provisions of that ordinance, and if you don't return the money, then there may be some complications.
Just to be clear, I'd like a sort of definitive answer, since we're going to make a decision today, it looks like. If we return, if we give people, if we attribute the money to next year, period, are there problems, are there legal problems?
I've talked to the drafter of the ordinance, and he feels that there would be.
What would those problems be?
I'd have to get him down here
Or I
to
think
go
it's
through them,
worthwhile-
but I know that it's because of the opt-out provisions, and that if you, there may be a question about.
I'll tell you what, why don't we get him down here? Again, I may be supportive of this as it's written, but I'd like to know what our choices are before reaching that conclusion.
All right, and your time's up, so
Thank you.
let's
If I-
resolve
Ron
that
wants to-
separately. The next,
Ruth, I think Ron wanted to comment.
I
I'm sorry,
want-
go ahead.
Just very quickly, the 58 million is correct on the reserve fund 1.2 would still have us above the 2%.
Thank you.
all right, Ms. Mizakowski.
I seconded this motion because there's no question that there's been confusion, there are fees paid, Mr. Fuhrer, in answer to your question about are there complications, there may already be complications because people may have paid the fee who, when the letter, had it gone out in a timely manner, could have still opted to do the self-inspection, who previously paid the fee, who are owed a refund now if we do nothing. So that there is...
That those people who had done that would be given the choice of...
Right, and that's why I do think that the line of questioning saying, instead of just to direct a letter that the refund be sent out, that we pursue the same option perhaps of allowing a refund to go forward. I personally believe that after all is said and done, and after we re-review this with our fire department and our financial advisors, that the fee may still be, and be recognized as the council already has, as a fee for service. But there's no question that this year, going forward with it, with the confusion, with the misinformation, with options of a fee previously paid that may be able to be refunded, that has been so confused that we need to start fresh. But I think, as this motion directs, we need to start fresh immediately so that we can have everything in place, clearly understood, giving people options next year in advance of what's done. Through this all, I want to generally commend the fire department. I think the fire department brought to our attention last year that they did not have the funds and were behind in what needed to be done. We were behind in the clearance of our own city properties. And this year, the fire department has clearly not only gotten the message, but been out front. Notices, clear, as you say, notices for non-compliance have already gone out. It would look awkward to have a letter go out and say you're supposed to inspect when people have already gotten a letter saying you're not in compliance anyway, and we've inspected for you. But we need, one, to commend the fire department for getting the job done. The city, I understand all of the city properties have already received a contract for the clearance to be done, and there's been work and consistent negotiation with the fire department and the Santa Monica Conservancy where there were issues about clearance. So I want to, one, commend that the work is getting done, but indicate that I think this motion asks correctly for all the work that should be done in advance so that as the council acts clearly with what might be and should be a fee for service, if that's what this program is, that we enact it in an appropriate time come July 1st so that we don't, one, hit a budget deficit if it's not enacted, but people have clear paths, clear knowledge, clear accountability, and clear communication when we send a letter out in advance of next year for what needs to be done. So I think with that, it makes sense to approve this motion today. I would like to include the direction that Councilman Fuhrer has suggested, and that is rather than just a direct refund, we direct the fire department to create either a refund or a credit option if the city attorney finds that that's applicable. So at least you have that option now.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez.
Yeah, I kind of want to rise in support of Mr. Kowski's motion, but basically what I wanted to suggest, I think there's a lot of confusion out there already, that we amend the special before us that basically suspends item number 1 until we have a further report as to what makes sense, whether to refund or give a credit, with a clear indication to instruct the city attorney to prepare the necessary ordinances. And the only reason I'm suggesting that is by the time people get the check, they'll be getting a notice of whatever the new system's going to be. And there's a lot of cost involved there. And I would think that it's cheaper if we just basically inform them we're crediting their $13, those who paid. But I don't know that. And apparently staff before us doesn't know that. And I just think it's going to confuse people. I want you to understand you're getting a check from the city, and then you're getting a potential bill from the city. And knowing the way the city does things, they might get the bill before they get the check. And so from my perspective, I think it's important that we follow through with what the motion wants to do, but we have a much clearer analysis as to whether it makes sense to provide the credit or to reimburse the fee, and how that will happen. And I think item number 4 is asking for that kind of clarity. So all I wanted to do was to amend the first part where it says direct the department immediately rescind. I don't have a problem with rescinding the $13 clearance inspection fee, but the part I have a problem is where it says and return the $13. I'd rather that a policy come back or a decision come back as to whether we want to apply a credit versus returning it immediately. The other part where I think we'd have to change it is in item 3, where it says inform the council's actions to rescind the $13 fee. I think that has to be looked at. I just think that put yourself in the shoes of our constituents. Some are going to be getting the check, and then they're going to be getting the bill. Some are going to get the bill without a check, and they're going to be neighbors. And I think we have to have a consistent policy. Even though some have already paid it, it makes a lot more sense to just issue a credit to whatever we're going to be billing them.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Burnson.
Well, you know, there's something wrong with the situation about applying it to next year, if there is in fact a fee next year, which hasn't been decided. And there also is a question of who will be responsible for paying a fee. Now, in order for there to be a fee, as I pointed out before, there has to be an actual physical inspection of that property. There has to be a nexus, otherwise fees are not legal in the state of California. So that needs to be decided. Who is going to be the people who are going to be paying a fee if in fact such a fee is going to be enacted? And I concur that possibly that we need to do something to make sure that there's adequate funds for inspections, because we're going to have possibly a very tough year this year. It's 2 years after a major, very wet, the El Nino season, and we have, we're expecting a lot of heat this fall, so it's going to be dangerous. We're going to have to provide safety. But the fact is that a lot of people who live on Devonshire paid this $13, and they are way, way, way out of any danger zone. So we need to, you know, I recognize the fact there's some budgetary things here also, but the right thing to do is to give the money back. And the right thing to do is to determine if we need a fee, who really should have to pay a fee, and are we really going to actually physically inspect. Places that actually have to be physically inspected after we send out a supposed affidavit and it isn't followed up on, these people should pay the a fine or a fee which is in excess of what we're asking in order to cover any added expense, because they're the people that are causing the problem. So I think that we need to refund the $13. Maybe we can do it in a different manner. Maybe we can ask the people who want a refund to request it by phone, and those that want to apply it can allow it to be applied the following year. I don't know. But we certainly cannot keep the money. We don't have it legally anyway. Unless we have actually physically inspected their property, it is, then the fee is applicable. Otherwise, it's an assessment, and an assessment without a vote is illegal. We can't do it. And yet I want to help the fire department find a way to do the work. And I think the way to fund this is if we have the affidavit system under penalty of perjury and people do not comply, the fire department can go out to the areas that are really the danger areas, which is what you're really inspecting anyway, and those people should have to pay the cost of these inspections, as well as the administrative costs they're now paying if we have to do the work. So that would be my suggestion, but I think we're legally bound to return the $13, and I would suggest that we approve Mrs. Chick's motion. I'm glad she brought it in. I brought one in similar to this a while back, and it fell upon deaf ears, but
Thank you, Mr. Burnson.
we still haven't resolved our problem.
I just want to call your attention to item 4, subsection 3 of the motion, which does request a review of a determination of the fire zone boundaries and buffer zones, which I think will deal with part of the problem that you've asked for. Mr. Wax.
Ms. Chick, first of all, let me say I think Ms. Chick is totally on the right track here. We ought to refund the money and wipe the slate clean. I question whether we want to do number 3, though, which is to send out another letter right now. I think it's just best to send back the money and wipe the slate clean, and don't send any more letters till we are absolutely certain what we're doing. I think that when we wipe the slate clean, we're going to have to relook at 2 things. One, is this even wise to begin with? Is the cost of all of these letters and all of this bookkeeping and all of this self-certification and department determinations and all, is the administrative cost of that going to end up eating up your whole $13 to begin with? And is it legal? I think that until you can determine that you're not spending more money to administer a program than what it brings in, and that it's legal, you really ought to hold up completely. But Ms. Chick's right. First, you start by doing what's fair in giving people back the money, and that puts everyone then back on an even playing field. And you learn from your mistakes. There's nothing wrong in acknowledging a mistake was made. What's wrong is to keep on going down a direction that inexorably leads to more problems. So I think that give back. If I could amend this, Ms. Chick, I would just say we do 1, 2, and 4, but we hold up on any more letters on 3 till. Otherwise, it's just going to be more cost of sending more letters and more confusion and more responses, and yeah. So let me just. Ms. Chick agrees with that. So then it'll be a friendly amendment. Wipe the slate clean, pay back the people the money, and then reconsider really if you really want to go ahead with this at all, or in what form for next year. And in doing so, at minimum, look at the cost of the administration of this, which includes the notification, the self-certification, and the department's responses to self-certification. Is all of that going to end up costing you as much as you're bringing in? If it is, it's really foolhardy to do it. And get a final determination legally as to whether or not this really does require, is legal to do it without voter approval, and just hold up until you resolve that. We've got time now. The fire department has been diligent in at least making sure that the safety factors are taken care of, which has always got to be the top priority. So I would just move we do 1, 2, and 4. 4 will help us determine what to do in the future, and hold up on 3 for the moment.
Madam President, members of the council, I would suggest that if you're going to not proceed, that you, at this point, return the money. The money will not cost us that much to return. If you hold the money, I think you run the risk of, especially if you're going to change the program, you end up not knowing whether or not the $13 that you have from certain people would apply, one. Two, you should give those people an option. The only way to do that is to communicate with them once again, then there'd be a cost to doing that. And it just doesn't seem that we would just be adding to the problem as opposed to taking basically a clean cut with this and decide what we're going to do next year and just return the money. It will not be that expensive, and I would, if you're going to approach it that way, I would strongly recommend returning the money totally.
All right, thank you. Mr. Alatorre for the first time.
Mr. President, members, can you, maybe Ms. Chick can tell me what happens to all of the people that received non-compliance letters? You know, which is very problematic because of number one, the manner in which and the shortage, and I think this is really what the money is needed, and that's to put together a staff that can do a much more effective job in doing the analysis of the inspectors and the like. Because, you know, what I'm afraid of, and I raised this with Chief a couple of days ago, about the numbers of questions that people in my district had. Now, that is being remedied as a result of the good work of the chief. But I'm just thinking about citywide, you know, the concerns that people are having. I mean, they get non-compliant. I got non-compliance letters from people in my district that all basically said the same thing. Now, it's hard for me to believe that every one of the pieces of property are all the same. I discovered that the plot plan that they used to do an evaluation example of my property is not the correct one. And yet, that's what they based the compliance or non-compliance, you know, as far as brush was concerned. And it turned out as a result of a reinspection that they were incorrect. And there's a few things, cosmetic things I have to do, as an example with mine. But see, I have a whole series of people that are in the same predicament that live in cul-de-sacs right abutting the 134 freeway in Eagle Rock, that, as one of the inspectors said, you know, they did a cursory inspection of it. You know, the way I found it, you can't get to my property, you know, because it has a gate. So that's what prompted me. Well, as it turns out, you know, I've gotten a series of complaints from people that live in and around the abutment to the freeway, and looking at their non-compliance letters, the letters all say the same thing as to what the remedy that they have. And, you know, it is confusing at best. So my question, Ms. Chick, is what happens, you know, I know I'm going to comply, but mine is so minor. If we're going to be returning the money, and if that is the will of the council, what happens in terms of the compliance or non-compliance letters? I mean, I don't know.
Okay, wait, you're up next anyway. Let's let the department answer first.
To answer, I'm Chief Hernandez, Fire Department. To answer the councilman's question, since this non-compliance fee is relatively new, the fire department has studied how we should put it in place. And what we're doing is we're only citing non-compliance fees to those properties that are so obviously non-compliant that a blind person could tell that they should have done something. If there is any question whatsoever relevant to that, we're going to notify the person that they do need to do some more work, give them a more accurate and complete indication of what work they need to do, and we're not going to subject them to that fee.
I think one other dimension to your question, Councilman, there will be additional information afforded each property owner, because there are some specific areas on each notice that you indicated, but there'll be a little more specific in detail as to what needs to occur, so that it's clearer to the property owner.
Okay, Mrs. Chick.
Yes, I did want to address quickly some of the questions my colleague, Councilmember Walters, had. The reason that we can't still send the letter out is because, one, the date of compliance would have to be changed. We'd have to give a longer date of compliance. Two, in fact, the inspections have already been done, so the whole discussion of giving a property owner the right to inspect their own property is moot. Colleagues, the department spent on the rewritten letter $40,000 to have them printed up. To reprint them would be about $40,000 again. In terms, Ms. Walters, of your question about the mayor signing the letter, this was a letter that was going out from the fire department. The Public Safety Committee sent in a report to the council. The council voted on it and directed the fire department to send the letter out with the sign-off of the CLA. The CLA signed off on it, made, proofread it, made sure it made sense, it answered definitively all the questions. It was a 4-page letter, actually 8 pages on 4 sides, but it answered every question that had come in, so it avoided, it helped people not have to call and be confused anymore. The mayor asked Chief Bamatre to submit the letter to him and not send it out. He wanted to review it. And that was a decision from Chief Bamatre and the mayor. The direction from the council was the final direction, and we had directed for the letter, in fact, to go out. Had it gone out in a timely fashion, we wouldn't be having this conversation. In fact, it could end up being beneficial all the way around. I mean, I always like to find good things out of bad things, because the department has done the public safety work. They've done the inspections, they've done them fast and well. They are still going after property owners who haven't complied, who need to, and they're charging those people the fees and fines, which will cover the cost of the printing of the letter that never went out, at least. And it does give us a chance to step back and do this better and right, and to make sure that if there is going to be a fee, that it's exactly the right dollar amount, that it's applied to exactly the right property owners, et cetera, et cetera. But I think we didn't have to be here today, had that lengthy review, because it's been over 2 weeks that the letter was held. But colleagues, I do think that Councilman Wax improved it by saying we don't need to say, I'm not looking for more letters and more expense, and I am asking that we rescind the fee rather than applying it for next year, because we absolutely don't know what the dollar amount is going to be, and I think it's going to be very confusing to go back and forth explaining this. And I believe Hank Morris is here to address us and is shaking his head affirmatively, so I'm curious what you have to say. But I'm looking forward to your acceptance of this motion and support. Mr. Bernson is going to have to, he was excused and is here as a favor. We're going to lose a quorum soon, colleagues. Thank you.
Yes, we are. All right, did you want to say something quickly? And we have one more speaker. I hope we only have one more speaker.
Very quickly, it is uncertain as to what the fee would be next year, because some properties apparently are slated to go out, and once that happens, then the fee could change. We could either, on the one hand, be charging less than it costs the city at $13, or we could be charging more than it costs the city at $13, depending on how the numbers go. So that would sort of argue for waiting and seeing exactly what we have in order to determine what the actual fee would be. If we charge more, of course, we run into a problem because we're charging in excess of what it costs the city. If we charge less, then we're getting less than we would normally receive. Right. So it's a factual issue, but these are some aspects that could be problems.
Well, but isn't that among the factual issues that item 4 of this report asks you to
I didn't hear item 4, but if that's the case, then yes, of course.
We'll be happy to share it with you. Okay.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Fuhr.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise because, having introduced the idea that we might consider giving people an option, I've since been talking with various staff members, and I'm convinced that, as amended by Mr. Wax, the motion makes sense, and we should just do it, and I will sit down having said that.
Great. Anybody else? Let's just do it. Open the roll on the motion as amended by the deletion of item 3. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
We have a vote. Forthwith. Thank you all. Next item.
Now is the time for council members to request from excuse for attendance at council meetings. Councilmember Savornich requests to be excused on Tuesday, June 15th. meets policy for city business.
So ordered.
Councilmember Galander requests to be excused on Wednesday, June 16th to leave at 11 a.m. This meets policy for city business.
So ordered.
Councilmember Chick requests to be excused on Wednesday, June 16th to arrive at 10:30 a.m. This meets city business. A motion is required.
Mr. Fuhr will move. Unanimous
The
vote.
desk is clear.
Do we have any adjourning motions? Is that an adjourning motion? Yes. Would everyone please stand for adjourning motions? Mr. Wax.
Yes, I'd like the council to adjourn in the memory of George Vincent Kelly, who was a renowned political and public policy specialist who served both for Senator Tom Kuechel and former Governor Nelson Rockefeller and worked closely with Stu Spencer and Bill Robinson. He was also a member of the State Advisory Board on alcohol-related problems and served with many years with distinction, and he leaves his wife and several children. I'll give the clerk the pertinent information. George Kelly, George Vincent Kelly.
Anybody else? Call the roll. Thank you. We are adjourned.
You are watching LA City View, Channel 35.